Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian. Please rise and bow your spirit as we say, "Come, come, whoever you are."
Spiritual connection in community, we listen deeply to others and ourselves. We open to wonder and transformation, and we serve together with love and humility. My name is Reverend AJ. I use he and him pronouns, and I'm one of the ministers that serves this congregation. Leading worship with me today is Donald and Amanda, our Director of Religious Education. We've got the Satori Trio and Pablo, our music director, joining them, so it's the Satori Quartet this morning. Our wonderful AV team helping us stay connected and virtual, and all of you here coming together make worship possible. Your presence makes our community real and alive. If you are here because you're going through a hard time, or you're worried about somebody else who is, please reach out and connect with our lay pastoral care team. We have folks you can connect with to offer that listening ear throughout the week, or even on Sunday mornings. And I see Mary in the back with her beige and rainbow stole on. You can connect with her even during the service if needed. If you are here for the first time, or your first couple times, please know that you are very especially welcome, and join us at the welcome desk so that we can get to know you better and help you get connected to things around here. And if you haven't yet come to an Inquirer series, please come early next week at 10:30 for our connection time between services and our Inquirer series for newcomers. Next week, the topic, it rotates through many different topics each week. Next week will be all about membership and what it means to become a member. So if this is your very first Sunday, that may be a little early for you, but I encourage you to come and get the information. And if you are someone who's been coming for a while and is thinking about joining more formally, this would be an Inquirer series not to miss. And the other part of our path to membership is Starting Point, which is a 3-hour workshop checking in on your spiritual journey and how First Unitarian can be a part of that going forward. That's coming up this Saturday, the 22nd. And I highlight those both because we're going to have a new member book signing and recognition in worship on the weekend of December 6th and 7th, when we also have our congregational meeting coming up. So there's an opportunity to vote and participate in the democracy the democratic leadership of our congregation in December. So I want to make sure folks who aren't yet members are aware of that.
If you're 16 and you are a member, you can vote.
If you're 16 and you are a member, you can vote. That is the age. So, no, that's all right. Part of what will make our congregational meeting possible is that we are going down to one service starting on November 30th. So after the Thanksgiving holiday, we will be at one worship service at 10:30 through December, and then in January we will resume with 2 services. So on 2 weeks from now, we will start one service at 10:30, followed by connections at 11:30, 11:45. So you are all here at the second service. So if you are someone who came to connections, then great. Show up at the same time, 10:30. Just come to the sanctuary first thing. If you have just come for worship, then please know that you will want to come earlier at 10:30 to not miss the worship services at the end of November and through December. Quick update on our Hot Wings fundraiser. If you aren't familiar with what that is, check in on somebody who's chuckling right now because they can explain it to you, I'm sure. But Reverend Sherry and I, the short version is we're going to answer some questions and eat some increasingly spicy cauliflower wings as we go. And we're trying to raise $6,000. So I'm happy to announce we are halfway to that goal. We have raised $3,000, which means we have revealed the first 2 hot sauces, Lift Off and Ghost Island. All of the hot sauces are sponsored by Karma Sauce, a local Rochester hot sauce company. So we're very excited about that. But we won't be able to reveal the other sauces or do the event at all until we raise the rest of that $6,000. So please make your generous donations. And with those announcements out of the way, one last one, a gratitude to everyone who volunteered this week as our congregation, our beloved building, served as a Red Cross shelter, an emergency shelter for some families who apartment building was on fire Sunday night, Monday morning. And the Red Cross wanted us to reflect back that the gratitude for the volunteers because this was the most welcoming and most hospitable church serving as a shelter that they had experienced. So we should be very proud of our building and what it can do for our community and our people. So now we return to this Sunday and this moment, this hour of attention and intention made sacred by our presence. I invite you to center yourself in whatever way helps your body settle into that quiet and stillness, or maybe you need to wiggle some things out, or take a deep breath. As we acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people on whose ancestral and contemporary lands First Unitarian now stands. To light our chalice this morning, I'm going to invite up Natasha and Lisa, who are actually responsible for this morning's sermon and service topic because they won it at the auction last spring. So please join me in the unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit one more time as we sing Building Bridges. Oh, in instructions up front this time. Let's sing it twice through and the third time as a round.
have this friend, Barbara. She's really quiet and doesn't like to talk to people, and earlier this year she switched schools away from her friend group, so she became even more quiet. But 2 weeks ago, she was over at my house with me and 4 other friends, and we watched movies and ate so much Halloween candy all night long. And that night, surrounded by all of us and all of our warmth and excitement, Barbara trusted us enough to share things with us that she hadn't told anybody her entire life. She made sure to emphasize, too, that even her dog, Barkley, knew none of this. In that moment, she said to me, "You guys are my people, and I've never trusted anyone more." And isn't that why we come to church? To trust our people?
Hello, I'm Amanda Graff, the Director of Religious Education here at First Unitarian. And I don't know if you've noticed this this totally wonderful thing that's happening, but we are growing and we are having a real blossoming of new families and more children coming into our congregation, which is wonderful. And it means that in worship, we're running out of room on the carpet. There's so many kids, and it's so wonderful. And it also means we're figuring out something new together, right? With so many kids and worship, we're figuring out something new. So I really appreciate all of you figuring that out with me. And to you all, I would like to invite you to come to the carpet, but first I'm gonna say, if you're sitting in the very front row, I want you to wait till the end and let everyone else come down first. If there's still room, then you come to the carpet. But if you're in the first row, I want you to stay there. And I don't want you to bring anything onto the carpet except something that's gonna help you focus and help everybody else pay attention. So if you have a fidget that's gonna help you focus, you can bring it. If you have something that's kind of loud or not going to help everybody focus, then I want you to leave it where it is. All right? Please come down for the Time for All Ages story. And we're not going to sit on the steps. We're going to sit on the carpet. There we go. Thank you, everybody. So we'll have our first row stay right there because you're right up front and you can see just great. Okay. So today's story has its roots in Germany, and it was used as the seed in a Brothers Grimm tale. So but I had never heard of it before, so I was excited to find it. It has themes in it of bravery and facing our fears, which repeat throughout cultures in the world. This story has some themes that you'll hear in different stories throughout the world. So, once upon a time, there was a kingdom that was terrorized by a fearsome giant. Every year on the same day, the giant would appear outside the gates of the kingdom. as he approached from a distance, his stomping shook the earth, and his roars and growls tore through the air. When he finally arrived, the giant would bash his huge body against the kingdom's high walls. And every year, it seemed he was closer and closer to making his way inside the gates. The residents of the kingdom, you might guess, were terrified. They spent the year between visits, reinforcing the kingdom's walls and working to create every barrier to the giant's entry. Finally, the villagers went to see the king to ask for his help defeating the giant. That year, as the giant stomped and stormed toward the kingdom, the king sent out 3 of his best warriors to fight the giant. The 3 warriors rode out on horseback, dressed in full armor and carrying the sharpest swords. They rode toward the giant with such speed and purpose that the villagers felt sure the giant would finally be defeated. Phew! But as they grew closer, the giant, who was already huge, seemed to grow bigger. The closer the warriors got to the giant, the bigger he grew. And the bigger he grew, the slower the warriors advanced, until at last they sat completely still on their horses, shaking in their boots. A particularly loud roar from the giant seemed to wake them from their frozen state, and all at once, each warrior shot off in a different direction, fleeing from the giant, never to be seen again. Each year, this would repeat. A brave person or a few would set out to conquer the giant. But like those first 3 warriors, as they approached, the giant would grow enormous in height, and the brave adventurers would freeze where they stood, unable to go on. Some escaped and fled back to the village to spread fear of the giant further. Some never returned at all. But one year, a young girl came forward to defeat the giant. By this time, there were so few people left in the village willing to even try, and so she was given permission. But before she left, the girl went to see the wise woman for advice, as you do. The wise woman welcomed the girl into her humble home and shared this wisdom. "We are scared," said the wise woman, "of what we do not know. And then it seems to grow and grow. And so it stands within our way until its name we learn to say." The girl listened to these strange words, and then she thanked the wise woman for her advice. On the day of the giant's next visit, the girl set out early to meet him. She walked by foot with no armor and no sword. She walked slowly and steadily with purpose as the giant stomped and stormed closer and closer. But this time, as the girl made her steady advance toward him, instead of growing bigger, the giant seemed to shrink. The closer she got, the smaller the giant became, until the girl was standing directly before him. And he was no taller than she was. As she stood there face to face with the giant, he seemed to shrink even further, until he was so small that the girl knelt down and scooped him up in her hand. Remembering the woman's wise words, the girl stared steadily into the giant's eyes. "Hello, fear," she said with a smile. And as the giant disappeared in a puff of smoke, she knew she had defeated him at last. May this story unfold in your hearts until we are together again. And please help me sing the children out to their adventures.
We bless you on your journey through, from sheltering arms to the white sky blue, in your joyful jumps and your sad times too. You bless us by being you.
Please join me now in the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer, beginning by holding a collective shared silence. Into this space and time made sacred by our silent witness, I offer this prayer from the Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern. The Hindu god Indra is said to have created reality as a great net, with jewels at each intersection of the threads. Every jewel is reflected in every other, and they are all connected by the infinite, intricate web. The jewels are sacred, and so is the net that connects them. And so I pray. Great mystery which grounds us and surrounds us, God known by many names and no name at all. You are the between spaces of our lives. Where one hand reaches to touch another, you are there. Where eyes meet across the crowd and confusion to find understanding, you are there. Where the spark leaps from one mind to ignite another, that is you. Wherever we connect, you are the connection. Each of us is a jewel in Indra's net, shining like dew in a spider's web. Praise to you, the web that connects us to one another. When we are in the in-between, on our way from the intolerable to the unknown, when we defy the categories that small minds invent and dare to imagine something beyond, when we seek others who are on a journey, on a threshold, on the margins, in any of the shimmering intersections of our lives, when we listen to the possibilities whispered within and step into mystery with trust, with fear, with trembling, may we find peace, for we dwell in your sacred place. And as we prepare to observe Transgender Day of Remembrance on the 20th, I offer these words of prayer adapted from Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. We remember those who have been murdered for being who they are, those who face violence on a daily basis, those who have lost loved ones, and those who worry for loved ones. May we come to a time when we cease to shame children around gender roles and expression, where we allow for freedom and exploration of identity and expression, and to a world that operates from love, especially when things are difficult and confusing. May all of us who live with the threat of violence find support, strength, community, hope, and safety from violence. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, I invite you to bring to mind whatever grief or gratitude or growth is alive within you this morning. Online, you are invited to share what that is in the chat, and here in the sanctuary, you're invited forward to light a candle at one of our altar tables. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please simply raise your hand, and if you prefer to use an electric tea light, they are available in a basket in the back of the sanctuary. And I invite Donald to begin by lighting a first candle for Alice Wong, the relentless and prolific activist for disability rights who died at 51 on Friday. May we now share in this ritual of community care as we witness to one another's hearts. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by the larger love that holds us all, always. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be.
All that our church is and all that our church does is made possible by the time, talent, and treasure that we give to our shared mission. Members and friends support this congregation financially through recurring giving, and on Sundays, we also give through our shared collection. As a part of the spiritual practice of generosity, 50 cents of every dollar given now to our offering will go to the National Susan B. Anthony Museum, which interprets the great reformer's vision and story and offers tours and interpretive programs to inspire individuals to make a positive difference. Using Church Center is the easiest way to give, but if you aren't set up with the app yet, you can also give by texting GIVE and the amount you would like to give to the number on the screen, or in the offering baskets that will now be passed. In the spirits of abundance and generosity, the offering will now be given and humbly received.
Our reading this morning is a selected history of complaints about kids these days. So, from an article from the Daily Mail in 2017 entitled, "A Generation with a Huge Sense of Entitlement, Millennials Are Lazy and Think Basic Tasks Are Beneath Them." From The Boring Generation, an article in the Washington Post in 1993, what really distinguishes this generation from those before it is that it's the first generation in American history to live so well and complain so bitterly about it. From Young People Drinking More in the Portsmouth Evening News from 1936, probably there is no period in history in which young people have given such emphatic utterance to a tendency to reject that which is old and to wish for that which is new. From The Wise Man's Forecast Against the Evil Times, a sermon by English preacher Thomas Barnes, 1624. This one. Youth were never more saucy, and people never more lawless. The ancient are scorned, the honorable contemned, the magistrate is not dreaded. From Essays in Idleness by Yoshida Kenko, a 14th century Japanese Buddhist monk. Modern fashions seem to keep on growing more and more debased. The ordinary spoken language has also steadily coarsened. And from Horace, the Roman poet from the 1st century before the Common Era, the beardless youth does not foresee what is useful, squandering his money. So there may be a consistent theme in human history that the next generation is terrible and is ruining everything. I wonder if any of them have been right. But of course, this distrust can cut both ways. I've taken the title of my sermon, "Don't Trust Anyone Over 30, from what is essentially a cultural meme from before we called them memes and put them on the internet and had TikTok dances. It was just a statement that sort of took on a life of its own. It turns out the original statement is in fact a real quote, and it comes from one Jack Weinberg, who was part of the free speech movement, a protest in the 1964-65 academic year on the campus of the University of California in Berkeley. Today, Jack is 85 years old. But back in the 60s, the free speech movement was a protest against the existing ban of on-campus political activities. And as we know from crackdowns and updated free speech policies at universities like Columbia and the University of Rochester over the last few years, particularly around or in response to student protests of the genocide in Gaza, the relationship between activist student movements and their academic institutions continues to be fraught and renegotiated. But back in the free speech movement, Jack made this statement, but it's been taken sort of out of context. Basically, what was happening was a reporter was interviewing him, but was kind of hounding him and insinuating that the students must be secretly controlled by a cabal of communists or directed by some foreign government or something of that nature. And in the heat of the moment, Jack said, "Well, that's not a problem. We don't trust anybody over 30. This was his way of telling the reporter to back off, that nobody was pulling their strings. So rather than a universal statement of distrust based on age, it was more a claim about independence and authenticity of a particular movement in a particular time when that was being aggressively questioned. And yet, the fact that that statement took on a life of its own, I think, reflects the deep-seated mistrust that can exist between generations, especially in terms of political movements. Now, this morning's sermon, as I mentioned at the chalice lighting, comes about as a result of last spring's church auction and the winning bidder, Natasha, collaborating with her daughter Lisa to bring this topic of intergenerational trust to me and to us. Now, one of the questions that Natasha had was, what do different religions and cultures bring to this topic or to this question? It's a very Unitarian Universalist way of approaching it because, of course, we know that our way, our cultural way, our personal way of understanding something isn't necessarily the end-all, be-all. And so we want to learn and glean wisdom from a wide variety of sources. So put another way, it's a question of how does your theology inform your willingness to trust another generation or another person from another generation. Now, of course, I am not an anthropologist or a social scientist, but there are people who are that, and there have been studies done on some of the generational differences between, say, Western and European cultures and East Asian cultures that I think are relevant here. One case in particular is this question of what your social orientation is. That is, whether a culture has people seeing themselves as isolated individuals and oriented to each other in that individual-to-individual basis, or as part of a larger collective. People are oriented within a larger context. And what a society's answer to that question is can influence a lot about how we think and perceive things. So for instance, people in more collectivist societies tend to be more holistic in the way that they think about problems. They focus more on the relationships and the context of a situation at hand, while people in individualistic societies tend to focus on the separate elements and to consider situations as fixed and unchanging. But even more than just our thinking, these cultural differences can actually impact our perception, how we literally see. An eye tracking study by Richard Nisbet at the University of Michigan found that participants from East Asia tended to spend more time looking around the background of an image, working out the context, whereas people in America tended to spend more time concentrating on the main focus of the picture. So I'm speaking in very broad and cultural terms, but I also think there's a theological element here. And it has to do with, well, what does a person or a culture's view of reality? What is that? And how does that impact our relationships? Are we essentially independent souls that will even persist with our own awareness and mind even after death as separate entities, as it is in the traditional view of the main Abrahamic religions? Or is there truly no self, as Buddhism teaches? Is the main locus of being the family or community unit and its harmony, as Confucianism explains? If our ancestors are active partners in our spiritual lives to be venerated, how does that change our treatment of living elders? Or how does that change our relationship to the descendants who will come down in future generations? Whereas if we think the fate of our souls is determined primarily by our own or exclusively by our own personal actions and beliefs held as individuals, how does that shape our relationship with others? Now, Western religion in both conservative and liberal forms has often emphasized the individual. And even for more modern, non-religious Westerners, folks are still shaped by these cultural ideas that are rooted in these historic theologies. So the question before us is, does our American style of individualism increase the rifts that exist between the generations? There's, of course, that sampling of folks complaining about the younger generation. There was an example from Japan in the 14th century. So this dynamic, I think, exists anywhere you have intergenerational community amongst humans. But the question is, do we have a greater issue of intergenerational mistrust in a more individualistic society? And again, I'm not a social scientist, but I suspect that the answer is yes. Because the more you focus on yourself as essentially independent from others, or focus on others as wholly independent in their own individualism, it can be easier to focus on the differences like age and to write off either the young or the old, to see less reason to trust someone who has different life experience. But more than that, I think the question itself is a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. By asking about trust between generations, we are already atomizing and quantifying, separating things into those generations, taking a more individualistic approach to assessing the picture, looking at the pieces of the foreground rather than the holistic background. The question already assumes individualism to be the frame to some extent. Like the giant named fear, the more we set ourselves up and others as rivals to be contended with, the bigger the obstacles to transformative relationship can become. Like Indra's net, we have to remember that it's both the jewel and the net itself that are sacred and worthy of consideration. Yes, there is me at this point and my child at that point and my parents at that point in the net of time. But should I focus on each point by itself to the neglect of the threads connecting all three and even more generations, both those past and yet to come? I think not. In speaking with Amanda about this topic, she reflected that one of the primary jobs of young people is to push older people to grow, to take risks, to see things differently. But also elders have their own complementary role to offer counsel and wisdom, to provide history and context. And sometimes one party is right and the other is not. Like Daedalus warning Icarus not to fly too close to the sun, there is importance in the warnings. Or with an elder or a parent saying to a younger person, you might not want to try that. I tried that and it did not work out well for me or for my generation. That's a valuable perspective to offer. And it's still valuable even if, in that particular instance, the youth's response is to say, well, that was then, and this is now, and I'm going to try things my way. And that's still valuable even if they end up learning the same hard-won lesson over and over again. The point is that it's not actually about who is right or who is wrong or who should be listened to in society more, but it's about each perspective having a role to play in the creative tension that makes up an intergenerational community or a family structure. One of the experiences that I often reflect on and comes to mind with this question is from when I was an intern minister. The congregation that I was at was going through a major building project, in their case to add a larger sanctuary. And there was conflict between the building team and the board of trustees. But it quickly became clear that this was not a conflict of personalities rubbing up against each other or people behaving out of covenant or badly. The conflict, the tension was actually appropriate and helpful. It was not a problem to be gotten rid of. It came from the roles that each of those bodies plays. Now, it didn't make it a walk in the park to navigate necessarily, but it did help each party to understand their role, and it led to more creative momentum rather than just getting stuck in a cycle of conflict. You see, the building team was there to push forward the project, to have a successful completion with everything that the church wanted, and was basically willing to spend, and if needed, to raise more money to make it happen. But the Board of Trustees, however, ultimately holds the fiduciary responsibility, the responsibility to make sure that money and effort and other resources are spent wisely. Like driving a car, the tension between these two creates getting to the right speed, right? Driving a car, you achieve the right speed by adding gas, but also by applying the brakes as necessary. It takes both roles. Similarly, I think that the supposed conflict or mistrust between generations, wherever it may show up in our cultural or political life or in a family life, it isn't a problem to solve, something to figure out the solution to and make it go away. I think it's a fruitful dynamic to lean into. Conflict, when done well, helps people and communities to grow. Yes, engaging in conflict is risky, but avoiding conflict is also risky. To engage conflict in a healthy way, we need enough trust that the other party is acting in good faith, and we need to offer enough of that good faith to build trust. And we need to acknowledge that it's always a risk to lean into the harder conversations because it might not work out, and also because we might be transformed in ways we did not imagine or intend. In Unitarian Universalism, I'm proud that our congregations lean into the risk of this possibility and invite youth to join as members and to serve on committees and teams to empower them to shape the direction of their own community building. I myself had a lot of my leadership grown from being an empowered youth leader when I was in high school. Here at First Unitarian, 14-year-olds are invited to join the congregation after they take the coming of age class. Although it is only, as Amanda pointed out, it's only when you're 16 that you are allowed to vote. And that rule is related to New York state law about democratic religious organizations. So to our youth, remember that we have an important vote coming up for our renovation project and congregational covenant coming up at the congregational meeting on December 7th. Your participation in that process is important and is wanted by our larger community. Ultimately, rather than writing off the previous generations for being untrustworthy or for writing off the next generation as naive and foolish, let us instead try to properly see ourselves and see each other for the roles that we hold in community and for the threads that connect each to each other and to the larger mystery of life and history. In doing so, let us honor each person and each generation's role in that creative tension. May we revere the past and also trust the dawning future, and engage each other meaningfully in the precious present moment that we find ourselves in. And in that spirit, connecting generations and community, please rise in voice, body, and spirit to join me in our closing hymn, The Fire of Commitment. Stack the chairs, and the update now is that we can move the stacks of chairs against the walls. So stack the chairs with arms, and the chairs without arms, and then if you can move them to the sides, we greatly appreciate it. For many hands make light work. Please join me as Donald extinguishes the chalice. Join me in the unison words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As you go forth, may you lean into creative tensions, taking risks, building bridges, growing trust, and serving love. Go in peace. I love you. Blessed be.